Hello everybody, it is Liam here from Bakugan by Liam, and as you see here, it almost looks like I've got a mirror image set up. So what I have here is I have two Aurelus Dragonoid Ultra from Bakugan Armored Alliance, as well as the Magma Blaster gear that they both come with. And the reason for this is I'm doing just a little informational video on some of the Wave 1 Armored Alliance Bakugan. So, what is this all about, you may ask? Some of the Wave 1 Armored Alliance Bakugan actually have like an early production run that was released and like is being sold. So, some Bakugan have like paint differences and you know, some mold, not like shape differences, but inconsistencies, like maybe like loose joints and things like that. So I'm actually going to go over an example that I have here on hand with these two sets, these Gear and Bakugan sets. Alright, so I've got both of the Dragonoids open. Now, they are open to where they would be as if you just rolled them out or opened them with a magnet, put them down, put the gear on them, and you know, open their little manual pieces, their horns and stuff to where they're supposed to be. I've not done anything past that. So, you'll notice already right from the front views that the early production, my copy of Dragonoid, looks about what you would expect. He's got, you know, he's got the cannons, he's got his wings out, you know, everything's normal, but for some reason, my sister's copy, the newer production, is kind of droopy. You'll notice the magma cannon is significantly aimed lower than the early production. Now if I actually even go to the side view, you'll notice that the newer production is definitely, it's leaning forward. Now if you can't see it already, what I did find, and the part of the reason for why it's drooping so much, is if you notice on the early production, the tail, if you look here, this is as far as it will go, right? The plastic stops itself here. But if I like pull it back, so this is how it would be when it's closed, and then opens, and it opens all the way out, right? If you actually look here and compare the tails, the newer production, for some reason, when it opens, it doesn't open all the way. It actually stops itself. I'm assuming with some extra plastic or whatever gets in the way. So it has like this click before it can actually flatten out. And now you'll notice, even flattened out, the magma cannon is still actually drooping over the horn, which is interesting to say the least. This I'm not entirely sure why. I think maybe I have two theories, although actually I think I'm throwing one of them out right now. It looks like either the magnet on magma cannon is shifted backwards into the gear piece. So since the magnet seems to be shifted back in the gear piece, it actually pushes the rest of the gear forward compared to this. And you can even look how this early production gear actually kind of covers a lot more of the magnet arm than the old production was. So that's what I would believe, you know, from this evidence that actually is happening. Now, some of the other differences here with the Bakugan themselves, you'll notice that the horns are actually different colors. So the early production has this nice chrome like silver, the same as the rest of the silver on the Bakugan, and the newer production, the I guess proper version, because that's what's supposed to be released. The proper release has a black horn, A couple of other things is the silver on the magnet arm for the new production seems to be a bit better applied than the early production, as well as on the eyebrows, which might be a little bit hard to see with the light, but you should be able to see the metallic sheen better on the new production. What else? There was something else. Alright, here we go. The feet. That's what it was. These feet pieces, the new production, it seems a bit more gritty, a bit, I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of hard to see on camera. It's easier to see in person, but the new production almost has like a darker silver color and a different sort of sheen on it that looks more like actual metal, I want to say. And now, one of the most interesting differences between the old and new productions is, if you notice on the new production, right, you open the wings, and if you try and push the wings past where they stop, it feels like you're going to break it, which is good, because you don't want to be, you're not supposed to be able to push it there, so it should stop. And that works on both sides. It's like a limit. But now the early production, if I go to the left wing, I can feel that. It feels a little bit looser, granted, but not, it still stops, and it feels like you would break it if you went farther, so that's good. But for some reason, this right wing actually opens slightly wider before it stops, as well as without even feeling like I'm putting stress on the piece, it just pops right open. Like, that was with such ease. There is resistance, but it doesn't feel like very stressful for the plastic. It just feels like a little bit of a click, which is interesting. Almost like the click on the tail for the new production. So they've both got the different little clicks. So that's quite interesting. So it seems like a lot. Oh yeah, the other thing was the feet joints on the old production. I don't know if this is just mine or not, but like this right foot is extremely loose. Like, I'm just touching it, right? Now this one, if you notice, is nice and sturdy. It is a little bit loose, but it'll stay in place in the position you put it. Now these ones, the new production is extremely stiff, which is good. Nice and good for poses. It's going to stay exactly where you put it. And the last interesting production difference is between the actual gear. Now, I did go over the magnet seems to be pushed backwards on the new one, which is this one, and I'm not entirely sure. They look identical in terms of the mold there, so I don't think it was the mold. It might just be shifted backwards inside the mold itself. It actually looks like they have different production numbers too. That is interesting. So the early production one is 91025BMP, and the newer production is 91030FWS. So I know you can't really see it on the camera that well, so that's why I read it out. So they actually have different, I don't know if it's serial number or product number or whatever that is. They have different numbers on them. The other thing was two other things with it's with the paint. Two pieces with the paint is, if you notice, the early production actually has a flat white faction symbol, almost like Pyrus or Darkest does. And then the new production actually has gold paint applied to the faction symbol, which I thought was interesting. The other thing, a little bit more minor than like a change in color, is this whole lip on the early production is actually painted with the silver, except for the bottom, but that whole lip going out is, and this whole lip on the side is not painted, where it's just on the top, which just interesting minor change. Not sure for what reason. Also, I just noticed that there's some scuffing on mine. I'll have to look back at my footage and see if it came like that. It's interesting. There's a little scuffing up there too. I'm not sure if it came like that or not. Might be, because I've had it for a while, or like a week, something like that. Anyway, so this is just my little, I guess, PSA, if you want to call it, about early production Armored Alliance. So, as far as I know, there's nothing bad, like nothing negative about any of these differences that have popped up. Like, another example besides the Dragonoid, there's the Ventus Pharaoh figure that comes in the Aquos Nihilus 4-pack with gear. The early production has yellow striping on his Sphinx mane, but the changed, I guess, what it's supposed to be is actually the same gold that is on the faction symbol for the Orless gear, as well as the faction symbol and B power on the diamond figures. So I can see this raising prices on some of the early production ones as they're limited, because I don't know whether it was a mistake or if they changed it partway through knowing that they had already made them and were releasing them. But there's a limited number. Now, obviously, we don't have actual numbers because it's not a true special edition or anything, but there's a somewhat limited number of these misprints, I guess you can call them, or the early production runs out there. So, I mean, if that's your kind of thing and you like the collector value of that, which I can see them down the line being more expensive as, as copies disappear, as people throw them out, yada yada, once there becomes a lower number, I can see these early production runs definitely being actually, worth something. So, personally, I love that. And I'm probably going to buy both copies of them for myself, as long as I can get a job. That would be the first step to that. For now, I have both in the household with me. This is just my sister's, not mine. But anyway, just wanted to inform everyone. Sorry if I rambled at all, and I definitely did lose focus. I'm a little exhausted from school today. But, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.